back to Midday. We are talking about, well, actually, this is a prevention segment, a drug prevention segment, I guess we could call this. We have Tira Hogue from Ask Wellness joining us, and we also have Kyle McKenna, who is the operator for the machine we're talking about today, the FTIR machine. So thank you both for being here.
Certainly.
We were sort of promoting this as a prevention segment, and also just a really interesting machine, Kyle, that can detect whether or not fentanyl is, if there's any traces of fentanyl in a substance. Isn't that right?
Yeah, so the instrument actually, it can detect fentanyl. It can detect basically all of the common drugs that we would see on the street, most of the common adulterants. There's a couple things around fentanyl specifically. So the issue with fentanyl is that it needs to be present in a high enough quantity.
Right.
So there's other instruments that have the advantages of being able to separate out all the components and look at each one individually. This one, the advantage of it is it's really, really quick. So it doesn't separate everything out. It kind of takes a snapshot of the substance without separating out the components. So for that reason, to run the test, it only takes about a minute, but it will only detect things at around 3 to 5%. And fentanyl can still be harmful far below that.
Right.
So that's why we've also got fentanyl immunoassay tests or dipstick tests. So all you need is a couple of grains of substance, and that will detect fentanyl and the common fentanyl analogs. This one, the FTIR, it can give a rough breakdown, some percentage information. It can, common adulterants and buffs. That kind of thing, but there are certain substances, fentanyl being the one of greatest concern.
Yeah, of course.
So we do have additional testing for those as well.
And Kira, I know that this is a time of year that, I mean, it's always important, right, to have this education piece, but why right now in particular?
I think it's really important for a couple different reasons. The Christmas season is upon us, and you know, we should be doing this, we want to be doing this year round, and around special events like Halloween and New Year's, but the Christmas season is a big chunk of time where people gather, and there may be some partying.
Well, yeah.
There might be a little partying out
just
there.
a little bit, right? I mean, yes.
And so what we just wanted to remind everyone is that although Ask Wellness is really largely known for working with marginalized populations around housing and homelessness and such, that our doors are wide open to the community. Like, we want to engage anyone and everyone who might be at risk and who might witness. And so here are two of our strategies that we brought to show you. And one is a prevention tool, so that you get to know what you've purchased and what you might consume. And it goes beyond just fentanyl. Like, what if you purchased one thing and you found out that there was buffers or other pieces in there that you didn't want, right? Now you get to make a decision to not consume. And knowledge is power, right? So there's a whole bunch, and then there's an engagement component where when somebody comes in for testing, we get to have conversation with that person about, how are things going? Do you need supports? Are you curious what those look like? Right? So it's also about connection.
Absolutely.
And then we look at the response side of this, and to remind everyone out there, if you're going to a big party with lots of folks, if you're going to a dance or a bar, if you're going out and you might witness, like, you don't have to come in and identify as somebody who consumes. But if you think you might be somewhere over the 10 days of Christmas that typically we all enjoy, and you might be in a scenario where somebody goes down in a bathroom because they didn't test their drugs and they did get a tick of fentanyl in there, then at least you've got the training, the knowledge, the power, and the tool to save a life.
That's the naloxone kit, right?
Okay. So we're covering both ends of this. It's like prevention, information. Do you want to consume? Do you know what you have in your hands? And this is something bad has happened, and there's somebody there that has the skills and the tools to save a life.
Right. Just quickly, Kira, tell us about naloxone, and of course, just people are looking at this poster here that gives you all the information, and you can access Ask Wellness anytime right there. But naloxone itself, that's just, you know, tell us how that works real quick.
This is a reversal to an overdose, and so you know, within the kit we have the directions on how to respond. And you can. So you're going to assess whether the individual is breathing, you're going to stimulate, you're going to look for a response, you won't get one, you're going to evaluate, you're going to ventilate. And with the training, an individual will know when it is time to use our vanishing point syringe and our naloxone. And it's an intramuscular shot. And it will reverse it. What it does is kick the opiate out of the receptor that is causing the overdose, and the overdose looks like respiratory failure. So the lungs just literally stop working. They're so happy and comfy that they just don't breathe anymore. And so we want to kick that opioid out of the receptor so that all the important parts of our body continue to work.
Thank you both for being here. Super important topic. We always talk about, you know, be careful if you're out drinking, be careful if you're, you know, consuming drugs, or you know someone that's going to be, just have the tools ready. Thanks so much for being here. We're back in a couple of minutes. Stay with us.